Hey, what's up, guys? So a young boy is listening to the radio in the car with his father. Dad, what music did you like growing up? I was a huge fan of Led Zeppelin, the father replies. The who? The son asks. Yeah, Dad said, I like them too. Okay, so speaking of music. For the last 3 years, my hearing has grown steadily weaker. In the theater, I have to get very close to the orchestra to understand the performers, and from a distance, I don't hear the high notes of the instruments and the singers' voices. Now, I'm not talking about myself. That was a quote from Beethoven in 1801 when he was 30 years old. And if he was alive today, he'd be 251. And his career after the loss of his hearing continues to offer lessons to us today. Beethoven's professional identity in his 20s was as a pianist. And he loved playing for people so much that as his hearing degraded, he fell into depression and would bang on the piano keys so hard in frustration that he'd destroy the pianos themselves. His friends at the time are even quoted as worrying that he'd commit suicide. He would try to hear the notes by putting a pencil in his mouth and touching it to the soundboard while he played, but eventually he went completely deaf and music could only exist in his mind. And that's when everything changed. When Beethoven could hear, his music was good but restrained. And those who study music will tell you that his early work sounded much like that of his mentor. It was in the last decade of his life, when he was completely deaf, that he composed works that changed music forever. And this is when he wrote his Ninth Symphony, which is considered one of the greatest achievements in the history of music. Beethoven innovated by including a chorus, and to this day, the symphony is still one of the most performed all over the world. It was Beethoven's loss that set him free. Once he was no longer able to hear the influences of his mentors and society at the time, he was able to channel his own inner brilliance. Now, over the last year, we've all experienced loss of our way of life, loss of a loved one to a new virus, and loss of income for some. So on the surface, one of the lessons here is that, like Beethoven, we have the opportunity to contemplate our own loss and allow it to set ourselves free. But another way I've been looking at this is Beethoven's loss of outside influence. I'm sure going deaf was an awful experience for him, and he had no clue while it was happening that his best work, which would cement his legacy for hundreds of years, was to come as a result of that adversity. But nonetheless, when he was forced to rely on his own inner guidance, that's when his brilliance emerged and his true gifts. Now, in business, especially real estate, I see tons of people doing not much more than mimicking what they see others around them doing. If one person is marketing their listing on stories, then thousands follow. The first time an agent sees a marketing video with a drone, then their next listing is likely to get the drone treatment. In fact, technology and marketing tactics aside, this has been the observable case my entire career. It's very easy to fall into the trap of groupthink because, frankly, it feels safer than taking a risk on something new that could be criticized. Now, I'm not suggesting this is bad. Beethoven's early work wasn't bad. He started by mimicking influential people around him and being swayed by popular movements in music at the time. But I am saying that this could be holding you back from your greatest work. See, when you're learning, it's important to mimic mentors and build up your understanding of the fundamentals. Then, if you're brave enough, you have the opportunity to tune out the masses and listen to your own inner guidance. And this is how you find your own voice and speak to your database in ways that will cause them to be fans for life. It's how you build up such a strong relationship with them that you don't have to worry about the next new technology or the agent who charges less. Now, often when an agent doesn't have a listing to advertise or fresh marketing stats to copy and paste, there's a struggle on what to do for marketing. And this is when it's tempting to look around at what others are doing and take the easy route by mimicking what they see. Consider instead what might happen if you were to intentionally go deaf to what others in your industry are doing and instead follow your own inner guidance. In my opinion, you have a unique voice that people need to hear. And even if you don't yet realize it, you have plenty to say that will drive your marketing in ways that can take your practice to new heights. But you'll have to be brave enough to tune out the outside world and tune into yourself. And frankly, you're also going to have to be patient because this is going to take some time. Beethoven didn't go deaf overnight, and you won't be able to tune out overnight. But if you have commitment to yourself, you'll eventually be able to access levels of inspiration that you never thought possible. When I was in practice as an agent, this was easier because we didn't have so much media in our face every day. But we still had to work at it, and some of my best work came when I was totally ignorant of what other agents around me were doing. So the more you free up the bandwidth in your mind from the influence of others, the more you have available to use with your own creativity. And to be sure, you can see this all over, even in music today. You guys should know by now that I love Madonna, and one of my favorite quotes about her comes from an interview with her manager who said, "She never wastes time looking backward. She doesn't even look sideways. With her, it's always forward looking." When I heard that, it was the sideways part that stuck with me. People love Madonna in part because she has always fearlessly done whatever she wants to do and follows her own inner guidance. And she couldn't pull that off if she constantly spent time looking around at what everyone else was doing. She had to stay deaf most of the time. So this week, think about how loss can set you free, but also consider that you don't have to lose your hearing to go deaf to the influences around you and access your own inner brilliance. Your best work, your best version of a top producer life is still ahead. Okay guys, thanks for watching. It's going to be a great week. My name is Jason Edwards. Let's get out there and build a top producer life.